When we last parted ways, I had just convinced myself that the engine in this 1994 Seadoo SPX was in suitable running condition and worthy of a hull that had some chance of floating. I had also mentioned that the reason I wanted to get this craft running, despite the fact that it's almost broken in half, was that I had contacted a gentleman who had a very similar machine for sale that allegedly had a good body, but an engine that needed some major repairs. Confidence in my engine was running high, so I decided to contact the seller again and set up a time and a place to look at the jet ski with a bad motor, but allegedly good-looking exterior and solid hull. It took me about an hour and a half to get to the person's house, and when I got there, I'll be darned if that jet ski didn't look almost as bad as the one that I'm pulling the engine out of. The seat was junk, it was faded from top to bottom, front to back, and to top things off, if you looked underneath, it had a gouge in the bottom of the hole, at least 6 or 7 inches long, all the way through. You could see daylight up through it. And the person had the audacity to sit there with a straight face and tell me, it doesn't leak. No, I take it out all the time. Before the engine went out, it doesn't leak. So I don't know, maybe it's some kind of magic leprechaun lake that he's floating his jet ski on, but there's no way that I was going to spend $400 on a machine that isn't as rough of shape as the one that I'm trying to come up from. So I passed on that, and there was no violence, not a harsh word was spoken. That's just what you deal with when you call classified ads. You take the chance, you make the drive, gas is still relatively cheap. We turned around and came home. No sooner did I arrive home than I saw another nice looking watercraft for sale on Craigslist. It was a 1993 XP, which is the same engine as my 1994 SPX, so that's one strike in its favor. There was a picture on the post, so I got to see it with my own 2 eyes. That was a plus. The negative was that this machine was about 2.5 hours away. Now, this was our second day off, and my wife had already gone with me willingly to look at the first machine, and I really didn't want to ask her to look at this other one, but I couldn't help it. I said, let's go on one more big adventure. We'll double down. This one hopefully will be in good shape. So we called the seller, set up the appointment. He said, probably just needs a little carburetor work, but the body's in great shape. Clear title, it comes with a trailer. The person sounded genuine on the phone, so we hopped in the truck, threw it in first gear, metal to the pedal, down the driveway, 2-hour drive, stopped to get some food. We arrived, and, well, you be the judge. Just about everybody lies in classified ads. Lie number 1. The trailer has no license plate. Lie number 1.5. One of these wooden support runners is crumpled. Lie number 2. There was no title for the jet ski. Lie number 3. The hull is not perfect. However, compared to my donor Seadoo, we'll call it the Titanic Junior, I'll say this one's in pretty good shape. I love these old machines. It just screams of 1990s big hair, synthesizer music. It takes me back. So we were jazzed driving all the way home and keeping our fingers crossed that the police wouldn't pull us over because the lights didn't work on the trailer and there was no license plate. Well, luck was with us. we got home and I immediately started wrenching on the engine. I was really hoping that this machine would just run. I wouldn't have to switch engines, and then I could do whatever with the other engine. Maybe I could sell it for a couple $100s on eBay. Well, I'm not that lucky. I knew immediately that this engine was bad because I could turn the flywheel by hand. There was no compression in either of the cylinders. I couldn't feel with my hand anyway. So I hooked a battery up to it just for kicks. It just spun over and over and over, didn't run. I did a compression test on it. One of the cylinders had 130 psi compression. That is acceptable. The other cylinder had 50 psi. So that engine, at the very least, would need a top end job because both cylinders should have the same compression, and the compression should be over 100 psi in each cylinder. But that's okay. That would have just been a bonus if the engine was good. I bought this machine for the body. It's solid, except for the little bit of gel coat damage underneath. The seat's in decent shape. Did I mention the pink and aqua and purple? Has gauges, mirrors. Dash even looks okay. So let's get started on our heart transplant, shall we? I've never taken one of these out before. I've removed the battery, and I think the next thing I'll do is take off some of these hoses. Tuck these back here. Along with this one. I'll take out this plastic tube. I don't know what it's called. Air intake or something. I'll get these wires out of the way. And next I'll take off the feed and return lines for the carburetors. Now I'm removing the throttle cable. Next I'm going to take off the exhaust here. There's a clamp right here that connects the expansion chamber to the water box. I'll loosen that up. And this pipe looks like it's attached with some Allen bolts. And there are also 3 bolts back here that hold the pipe to, I guess it's the manifold, so I need to take all those off. Luckily this bolt behind here wasn't too tight and I was able to loosen it up. Doing some wrist gymnastics here. Success. I've removed one of these bolts holding the pipe to the engine. The one in back, I was able to get to it with a 13mm socket and an extension. This one that I'm working on now, though, is difficult. There's not a lot of room. I can't put a socket on it because it's so close to the metal here. So I've just been kind of chewing on it little by little with different 13mm wrenches. I even used my specialty carburetor nut wrench that I made in episode 1, but I'm slowly getting it loose. Hopefully I can replace it with a bolt with a smaller head so I can get a socket on there easier. And got this one out. Only one more bolt to go. The bolts are now all out of the pipe. It's loose, and I should be able to just pull it out of this pipe. That gives a little bit more room to work in here. Next, I'm going to remove this exhaust manifold. It's held on by just some Allen bolts. I'm about halfway through taking the bolts off of this manifold, and I just lost my Allen wrench down underneath the engine somewhere. So beware of that, because if something goes down underneath this engine mounting plate, it's pretty much gone until you either take out the engine or flip the ski on its side to try to shake it out. Luckily, I have a spare. Exhaust manifold out. Oh, we've got a straggler there. Better disconnect that. Now I'm removing the starter wire. This wire is really wedged between the starter and the case, so I'm just going to take the starter off. It's only held on by a couple of 13mm bolts. Starter out. Put this on the ground. One thing I like about working on these wave runners is I have a tool tray built in. Now I think the only thing that is attaching this engine to the hull, aside from these bolts, is this wire right here that goes from the flywheel cover to the electrical box. So I need to take out this electrical box and unplug the connectors for this wire. To do that, I think I need to flip this up, and I don't know if I should pull it toward me. Let me try that. So here's the electrical box, and it's just held together with 4 little tabs right here that I need to push on and then pry it apart with a screwdriver. I've got these unhooked, and now this should pull apart. Let's see what it looks like inside. Nice and clean. Cool. It looks better than the electrical box on this one over here. Do I have any footage of that? Would you like some rust with your rust? Yeah, I'll say. So now we need to find which wire to disconnect. So I'll trace the wire from the flywheel cover, and it turns out that it's this one right here. So I'll remove this little plastic nut and disconnect these connectors inside for the yellow, black, black and red, and white wires. I've disconnected all of the wires, so now this should pull out of here nicely. Perfect. I've put the electrical box back in its place temporarily just to keep it out of the way, and folded back all of the wires. And I have the wires from the stator separated as well. So I think the next thing I need to do is remove these bolts right here. I've got all of the bolts out of the engine mounting plate, and it seems to be loose. Now I think I'll just pull it forward and see where the mating point is for the jet drive shaft and the engine. I'm thinking it's right here. I think this is the engine, and there's probably this is probably a spline shaft that goes into here. So let's see what happens if I pull it forward. Oh yeah, see that? So that's where it's going to come undone. So I should cut this zip tie. somebody's been in here before if it has a zip tie like that. So I'll take that off. And let's move forward. Might need two hands for this. And just like that, we have separation. So this is where the engine mounts to the jet drive, and came apart pretty easily. I had to straddle it, you know, stand here like I was riding the machine and just kind of wiggle this forward. It came right out. So now I just need to lift it up out of there. At least it's not a big block Chevy or something that I'm trying to remove. This is relatively light. Thinking on the fly here at the ranch. Hopefully I'm smarter than a fly. It's not good for the gel coat. Easy as pie. So I think that's the end of step one, removing the engine. I'm going to go lick my wounds a little bit, and I'll catch up with you later. Thanks for watching.